and if blue would become negative 12.2.
Wouldn't taking homes that are multifamily and moving them into larger lots and estate homes be cracking? We've got multifamily, heavily Hispanic population in that district, and you want to move them over to, say if it's Terraza, which is in State Street,
So cracking is really just something that we use when we're talking about the Voting Rights Act, right? And
So we would also be talking about the overall total percent of Latino citizen voting age population in between districts. So it's not necessarily talking about block by block, it's talking about the total percent of the entire district.
Their socioeconomic situation there. I've got just the persons who their primary concern is jobs, public transportation, and now we're going to move them into a census block of the states.
Right, so I think that is a really valid concern and something that is really important to think about. And I think more falls into under communities of interest and not as much the Voting Rights Act and
but really what we're looking at is just whether or not this is possible, because that was something that we were asked to explore. So we're looking at what's possible, and then we can get more input about whether it makes sense, right? So some of these things, as we've seen, we're stopping already at it doesn't look like it's going to be possible without, undoing a whole bunch of other stuff that we actually like about them.
So this area, and I took out this last, took out this last census block just because the question was about Velarde specifically, and uniting both sides of the street on Velarde into one city council district. So yellow would become 2.7% and blue would become negative 10.1%. And this is a move that I think potentially could be possible if there's another area surrounding blue, so in any of the districts surrounding blue, where blue could pick up population from.
Relating to the Velarde situation that you're talking about, my street, a 2-block street, crosses Velarde. One part is in the blue district, and the other part is on the side, on the other, yellow district. And when you're talking about dividing Velarde into adding it would be the west side of Velarde with the blue district. That takes in the same area that I'm talking about, which was a much more mixed group of cultures, whatever you want to call it. I don't think it would have a negative aspect.
So you think that it doesn't make sense to go to move this area that's currently blue into yellow, but maybe where it's yellow, moving it into blue makes more sense?
One way or the other.
Either way makes sense. But keep it together.
It's just that if you want to talk about my community of interest, it's the people on the second block of Kalalukana.
I see, great area.
Which are much more, I have much more in common with the people behind me, the people on the other side of the Velarde. It's homes that were all built at the same time, and they were sort of years. And now they're going to be in 2 different districts.
Can we see that other one again? The yellow one? One more time. That big yellow one they both had about the same. They were both 500 something. So what is the west boundary of that?
The western boundary of that is the city limits.
Well, I'm just looking at the lower west boundary there.
This, I believe, also follows Del Obispo.
I know.
Paso Terraza.
that's Terraza. Okay, so that's splitting up Terraza. And splitting up some other streets other than that. There's not a lot of gain one way or the other. Yeah, so trading one problem for the other.
Yeah, so we're kind of trying to figure out what to do with this one. Should we explore this further? What do people think? Should we? Okay.
So if this area that's highlighted became blue and I used the Del Obispo, would become yellow, I used Del Obispo as the boundary because that seems like a really major street here, and that, maybe that would be something that people identify as, this is where my neighborhood begins and this is where it ends. So that's 527 people. And the yellow, again, the yellow percent deviation would become 4.8 and the blue would become negative 12.2. So my question is there another place in the city or in the districts surrounding blue, or I guess anywhere that's touching blue, that blue could pick up population from to make up for this change, which would make it a negative 12% deviation?
What is the one next south of the blue? What's the next one?
What's
down?
Your question is, what is this area?
How big is that?
Okay, let's see. I think that it's pretty low population, and
Is there a group of 500?
So that particular one doesn't have enough population, and also the blocks run all the way down to the city limits, so we're exploring some other areas here just to see what's around there and where we could potentially pick up population. Doesn't mean we have to do it, okay? Just checking it out.
okay, so this area in red, this is Camino del Avion. It's, again, we're right here in the community center and sports park. So this is Camino del Avion. This is Via del Lago. And this is Alipas. So if we made this switch, then the blue percent deviation would be negative 2.5 and the yellow would be negative 4.9. Oh, yeah, and actually that's not considering, I didn't make the change previously, so I might have to pick up on.
Other people were talking about the largest. The differences between just one street is fine, I think everyone can hear me, are big. I mean, one end of the street having more in common with other parts, and then you can cross the street and there's a whole socioeconomic difference just within crossing the street. So I think leaving it as it was originally is just better off. It's not perfect, and not everyone's gonna like it, but I think you guys are already got that area well, and you're just splitting up another neighborhood.
There's not enough.
Yeah, okay, so this one would split another community of interest, actually it's a homeowners association. And a community of interest. So we're gonna walk away from the Velardes change, is that, yeah, I see a lot of nodding over here, a lot of, yes? We'll move on to the next comment then, or the next feedback item that we got from the city council. Okay.
Okay, and the last comment on my list here is to keep Las Ramblas together. So here is Las Ramblas. And a community of interest that we have in this area is called Pacifica San Juan, and it's sort of a developing community. I don't think that this 100% accurately reflects the community of interest just because of the sheer size of the census block. And I think that this is pretty realistic though, and just wanted these boundaries and just wanted everybody to be able to see them. Okay, so I'm going to start by looking at making these areas red, and then if that doesn't work, we can see about making some other areas yellow. Okay, so this area is 0 population. So I'm gonna make this change. It's not gonna affect the percent deviation on anything. Then north of Las Ramblas, okay, that's one. So this area is 528 people. It would make the percent deviation of red 6.8% and yellow negative 10.5%. And to make it, sorry, and I'm just gonna really quickly include all of Las Ramblas. So that's 786 people. Red would become 10.5 and yellow would become negative 14.2%. I'm wondering if there is an area somewhere between red and yellow that we could trade population, take population from red and move it into yellow. That would make sense to sort of have this change make sense also. And the reason I'm not mentioning gray is because we heard a lot of testimony that the creek really makes a lot of sense as a boundary between the districts. We also heard some testimony, but kind of less, that the Ortega Highway makes sense as a like a natural boundary between the two districts too. So is there a place between red and yellow that we could trade population, any of these areas in red that could move into yellow?
Any ideas?
So this area, this is La Novia. So it would be moving from a neighborhood that's already in red and moving it into yellow. So we need something. Oh yeah, so we need something that's red right now that could go into yellow.
Well, north of the yellow is a senior community, which I don't think has much common interest to those estates that are accessed off of either Valley Road and or off of Las Ramblas. To the south of that is I'm assuming I will say the street. Right there. with the estates that are accessed here off of Valley Road, or if you went south, the estate homes that are accessed off of Los Robles.
You know, I would tend to disagree socioeconomically, they're not that big, even though they're a different size.
So you think that the senior
Yes, I've
homes
visited
that
all
have,
those homes. They're very similar.
So the senior homes there have some socioeconomic interest that would be common with, like they need public transportation. I don't think that the estates off of Las Robles are really concerned with public transportation. I don't believe that they're concerned with the water needs of those homes on 20,000 plus square foot lots. I think there is definitely an economic social difference between the two communities. So I don't know whether or not we are welcome to try to take these senior homes and put them into that district. And then here are, this is a golf course community. Again, I don't believe that they have the same economic or social interest as the yellow community. But you can try to sit with those in there also. And if you go over here, these are estates, all gated communities. This is a gated community here. These are all gated communities except for one little section right here that's not gated. Those could be put in there, but I think you're going to put the population over.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any ideas? Should we click around and just see what we can do?
Does that work the way it is now with the numbers? Is that
No, it doesn't, because now we need to, if we want to make that particular change, we have to find some population in the red district.
So why are we changing?
Well, because we're trying it out, because it was a suggestion, and we're trying it out.
It was my suggestion, and
Oh.
I think it was a really bad suggestion. I
Okay.
think we ought to leave it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming today.
Continuous exercises for to see if they're good ones or not.
Okay, so one change that was made is that all of this area between Las Ramblas and the city boundary, that's all red now. That was just a zero population.
Does that make sense?
So that's one change that did happen, is that this whole area was yellow and now it's red, but it was not, there's no population in there, so it doesn't change any of the percent deviations.
Can somebody like do some nod? Yes, thank you. Yes. Thank you.
The only other suggestion from city council was to make this whole, the spotted wolf and village areas fall in the green district. We've also heard a lot of testimony against that tonight.
Yeah, I don't, again, it doesn't work. What the objection to the way it is now was that only the very back half of the objection to it as it is now was that only the very back half of Briarwood Lane was being pulled into the gray, and that just seemed kind of sad for Briarwood Lane. But, you know, just do the best you can, and next time around, hopefully, you know, it's just a strange, it's because they have to be contiguous. It's because the gray has to be attached, and so that's how they attached it. And it's just goofy, but there it is.
I'd just like to say one thing before we all leave. The only Hispanic mayor that I remember since I've lived here lives in Spotted Bull. Just a comment. Oh, well, maybe, yeah, there probably have been some before that. But I do remember when he was mayor, and that's where he lived.
The council member representing the district doesn't have to be Hispanic, except for.
No, but it's an observation.
Okay, and now I'm just gonna move into some areas and see if there are any zero population blocks like this that we can just sort of do some cleanup on. So we get the figures. Okay, so that all is zero population. I'm gonna make that change just to make things a little easier on the eyes. Yeah, it's closer to the fire.
So basically, we'll zoom out in a little bit. So what she's doing right now is she's basically looking for some zero population blocks that when we first drew this preliminary draft, because we're going pretty fast, you know, there's like little block slivers that we could potentially just take out and stick into a particular district to make the districts a little bit cleaner. Maybe to keep a line going a little bit longer along the 5, for example, and not divert from it. So it doesn't do anything to the total population, it just makes it a little bit more logical and makes it just look a little bit better. And we'll zoom out here in a second, and then maybe I'll take a look at it and see if there's something else you'd like to take a look at. Is there another area that we haven't worked on tonight that you'd like to work on? Will you please let us know? Or if there's anything that's just really bugging you and you really want to know about it?
So Mission Hill and Mission Flat are together and they're in the Green District.
What we thought we'll do is we'll just take a 5 or 10 minute break really quickly. We'll leave this up on the screen. Everybody can take a look at it, ask us some questions. If you want to, you can talk to each other. And then we're going to look through all the comments that we've received like right before the meeting that we haven't had time to digitize, just to make sure we're not dropping the ball on something. And you know, if we find anything that we haven't discussed, then we can do that after the break. And hopefully we can wrap this up pretty quickly. All right, so like 5 minutes, maybe 10 max.